So my name's Andrea Bubula. I'm the owner, director here at Lowry Hill Gallery. And again, I'm so excited to get to do this with the artists and the friends and supporters of the gallery. It means so much that I'm here with you all today, and we're all here doing this. So this is our third exhibit so far at Lowry Hill. We have 1 week left of the show. And I'm here with Carl Oltvedt today. So before we start, I just want to mention there are some refreshments on the other side of the wall. Help yourself if you need to get up and move around. We have 2 bathrooms there that way, and don't feel bad if you need to get up. Let's see. We don't really have a schedule. I'm happy to stay. I know it's 4 o'clock. If we close at 5, but I'm not going anywhere. So if anyone wants to stay, you're welcome to. All right, so Carl Oltvedt, you probably all know his story. Carl, okay, so when did you start teaching at Moorhead?
1983.
Okay, 1983. You retired 2015, yep. So that's an incredible career.
Plus 3 years in Michigan at a small college.
Busy.
Yeah.
So now you're retired, maintaining your studio at
No, I work full time. Excuse me.
This is Carl Oltvedt. Okay. So again, we all know how established he is, and how lucky we are to get to see his work continue. I could tell you that in addition to maintaining his studio, he teaches workshops. We have an opportunity in July to participate in a figure drawing workshop being held here and taught by one session by Carl, and then another session by Michael Carrican and Michael Banning. And you teach at Grand Marais.
I have, yeah, in the past. Yeah.
You can tell us more about that if you want to. Let's see. Carl's work is in the collections of MIA, the M in St. Paul, North Dakota Museum of Art, Plains
Art Museum.
Yes.
Rourke Art Museum.
And the Rourke, these drawings that are around us today, these were part of an exhibition, a solo show that you had at the Rourke over the winter. Yeah, so thanks for letting me show them. I've loved living with them for the past few weeks.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So why don't you tell us a little bit how you want to introduce this show or talk about the gallery?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you, Andrea, and Muriel. Having gone to Groveland Gallery, I was kind of a cocky undergraduate, becoming a graduate student, and I went into Groveland Gallery, and actually I was in graduate school and just started, and met with M.K. Lundrigan, who was the gallery director at that time, and showed her my work. And I'd gone around to other galleries in town, and I heard multiple times, nice work, wait till you're done with graduate school. And I thought, I'm not going to do that. And so I went in, and MK said, I'm interested. And I thought, great. And so I guess I brought in slides first and then brought in the work, and she said yes at that point. So I felt lucky to be connected with a gallery at that age. And she was director until 1983 when Sally Johnson took over, and had a great working relationship with Sally. And then Andrea was assistant, 1999, 2000. It was
96.
96.
2004.
You've got the dates down because you did that.
Yeah.
Right? So we had a good working relationship. And when Sally retired, Andrea became the new director. So, and then this past winter late, and forgive my raspy voice, it is allergies. This past winter, Andrea and Muriel left Groveland and came here, and we had spoken before, and she asked if I'd like to come with, and I said yes, because we have a good working relationship. So yeah, I'm very happy to be here with you and Muriel, and also in this space. And you've done a remarkable job with this space.
Thank you.
Really, it's just incredible. It really is. It wasn't a bad store when it was a store, but it's a better gallery.
It's an incredible gallery.
Yeah. So, and I really appreciate you all, but I also appreciate each and every one of you. Many of you have followed me since I was showing at Groveland in the late 70s, and I'm very appreciative of that attention, that you pay attention to my work. Means a lot to me. I just go to work, like many of you are artists. You do the same thing, and if you're not an artist, you do other things. You just do it, and but it's wonderful to be able to bring it out and to show people. And I have to say, I get really excited about it, and then when it's going to happen, I get really nervous. Not just the details, framing this, framing that, but I'm getting the work schlepped over here or there. But it's suddenly you're putting it up, and it really is on display, and you're really out there, and it's wonderful. So I appreciate each and every one of you and others who aren't here that have watched what I've done.
It's a remarkable community. Yeah,
it is.
I never take it for granted, just what we have, and we get to do this together.
Well, when I retired from Moorhead, I had all intentions to move back here. I'm from the Twin Cities originally. I was born at Swedish Hospital downtown, and my parents moved. My dad was a traveling sales rep. When I was born, he was in the Air Force, and he wanted to get out. He had been in the service during World War II, and he wanted to get out. He was done flying all over the world, and I think my mom liked the idea of him being grounded too. So he first, I won't get into his history, but we moved a fair amount because Dad got into selling farm machinery for New Holland. Some of you may have heard of that name. And so we moved to Marshall. We lived in Fergus Falls, ended up in Grand Forks, so we were down here and then up there, and then Dad got transferred back here. And it was a good age for me. I was a junior in high school. I have good friends from Grand Forks. I still do. But I felt connected down here. And so both, my brother was in college at the time. So my mom and I were trying to convince Dad to try and work on a transfer back here. And he got one. And so we ended up in Burnsville, and I graduated from Burnsville High School. What a great art program. There were 2 full-time art teachers, and I worked principally with one, and an incredible education. I even had an art history class in high school, and I thought this is normal. Well, it wasn't normal, So, and then I went to the U for my undergraduate degree, and that was a great experience. And I got my graduate degree there as well. So, yeah. That's the rest of my background.
Okay.
If you have other questions, you can ask. So why birds?
Well, I was going to start with drawing.
Oh, okay. We can do that.
So in the most recent years, you've been doing a lot of drawing.
Yeah.
You paint too, but
Yes.
I haven't seen paintings for a while. So the birds, they're charcoal and pastel.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Not everyone has pastel in them, but the 2 on the end over there do not. They're just charcoal. Mm-hmm. And I shouldn't say just charcoal. It's mostly vine charcoal. and some charcoal pencil, but I love charcoal. It's a messy business. But
It's very immediate.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And the paper, I love paper. I'm a paper junkie, actually. I'm in a 12-step program. I have been for years. I'm powerless with
Yeah.
paper. But
You have to admit it.
yeah, I do. The paper in the drawing on the left is Italian, Magnani. It's a printmaking paper, so it's soft and somewhat absorbent. And so it doesn't like to give up what you've given it so readily. Um, I've worked with that paper with pastel too, and that's where I learned to vacuum my drawing if I don't like what I've got. Um, and but it's such a beautiful paper. I absolutely love it. I use other types of paper that they make too. The one on the right is on a canson mi-tente. It's French, and artists like Degas use canson papers, and not just their papers, but the Ingres in particular. This is all media or materials related. So the pastel in the corner, which some of you over here can't see, it's the goose. That's on Italian paper handmade by Fabriano, called Roma. And if you look in one of the corners, you'll find a fairly good sized oval like this, with this lovely Roman wolf in the center of it. And sometimes it shows up a little more than some people might like, but I like it. So they made paper for Michelangelo and Da Vinci and
Well,
Raphael.
I can see why you want to collect all the paper.
It's just the history, yeah, yeah, it's fun. So, and those two are also on Roma. This is on the Canson paper here. So Canson paired up with Montgolfier. The Montgolfier brothers made the first hot air balloon in the 18th century. So there's a connection with paper and flying. And this is also Canson paper. This is a German paper made by Hahnemuhl, or made for them. It's Bugra.
What's the name of it?
Bugra, B-U-G-R-A. That's a full-size sheet, so it's a good size sheet to work on.
I think we could do some kind of video in Carl's studio, just where he opens up all the drawers and shows us his paper collection. That'd be fantastic.
Well, 2 days ago, I was in the studio and I wanted to work on extended gesture drawings of cranes, sandhill cranes. And I knew I had in the background in one of the drawers some crane paper made by Crane Paper. And their logo is a crane. So I found them. They're a bond paper, so they're meant for writing. They're lightweight, and but they work just great with charcoal. So, yeah.
Well, hearing you talk about the materials, I mean, it completes the picture even more, to know how sensitive you are to the different paper, to the different surface, how it'll take the material or not. And something that I always see in your work and your drawings are the marks that you leave behind. As it's so active, the mark making. So you've got your hand in the work, which I love. It puts everything in motion, and I know that you use photographs as a source material, and I've seen some, where that motion is evident too. So as you're drawing and responding to what you recall seeing and what references the photo gives you, I think that a step that is invisible here is that photography step. As things are moving in front of you, your responsiveness to what you're seeing is active there. too, right?
Yeah, it is. I'm very active. I, many of you know, I was principally a plein air painter for many years. And I love working outdoors, but for multiple reasons, too much sun exposure, that kind of thing. I've restrained myself from doing too much of it, but I am outside a lot and with a camera, and so I still draw outdoors, but I also will use the camera, and you rightfully the other day, Wednesday, said it's like you're drawing with the camera. That's my sketchbook in a way. So I've taken thousands of photographs, and the photos you're referencing are ones I've taken that I'm using for my work as a important source for being able to get close-up observations of the birds. As you might expect, the birds don't stand still, and we don't negotiate a price for modeling. So I have to be secretive or just still, or if I'm moving up, I know I've got only so much distance I can get towards them. And the gulls, a lot of the photographs, with the exception of the one end over here, that's from Bush Lake, but these are from the North Shore. And those gulls love people and dislike us too. So they get really skittish, and so I'm reasonably close. Maybe the closest is 10 feet, 15 feet. And the lens I use for my camera is pretty heavy now. It's a 500 millimeter fixed lens, so I need a tripod for it. I used to use a lighter weight 400 millimeter zoom, which I'm regretting trading in, but because there are times I'd like to run around with it, but I can't run around with a 500. So I have to plan what I'm doing and just sit and be still. And Liz, my partner, and I were up north last fall, and you hear ravens in the woods on the North Shore, but I haven't seen them often. Usually it's crows, same family. But there was a raven up in the top of one of the spruce trees. I went, oh God! I got the camera out, got it set up, and I'm taking photographs, thinking, oh, just stay a little longer, and off it went. Just what happens, but.
So we don't really speak photography here
Yeah.
at Lowry Hill Gallery. I don't
Okay.
have the lingo, but so how much does your camera weigh? How much are you carrying around?
The lens is about 5 pounds, I think.
So
it's, I mean, when you're holding it out like that, it's a lot to hold. And this spring, Liz and I were down at Snelling Lake. There were 40 bald eagles on the ice in the center of Snelling Lake. The ice was melting. And the eagles were mostly around the edges, which they do because the fish are coming up. So it's easy prey. And Liz was sitting in the car. I was standing outside with the camera, trying to get it balanced on the door, and she said, Carl, there's an eagle in that tree over there, just landed. So I took some really good photographs of it, using the door as a prop for the camera, so I can use other things, but usually it's a tripod.
You were talking about the darks, that the camera, you think it sees everything, it doesn't see everything.
Yeah, well, white and black are two of the hardest colors to photograph. I've adjusted for white more so. It's if you have a lot of light reflecting off a white surface, like a heron, you can't get it back, the detail back. If you adjust for that and the blacks are there, usually you can pull detail up out of the black with a good lens.
See, I'm nodding like I know about photography. I really don't know any of it.
I don't know enough. I know, when I was going to reference Gertrude Stein later, talking about birds more, but she said at one point, the more you know, the more you don't know. And it's true. I could be focusing on just photographs, and I don't want to.
Right.
But I need them.
Well, I like the title of the show,
Yeah.
In Focus.
Yes. Yeah.
Which plays with the photography, but
Yes, it
really
does. Yeah.
the work doesn't get caught up in those details.
Yeah, I need the detail to edit it.
Hmm.
I need to know what's there.
So one of the things that I thought I'd ask you about, you mentioned the North Shore. You know, the gulls are perched stationary on rocks, and you get the surface of the rocks and the materiality of it. And I was thinking about the definition of space. Some of them have more of a, you know, what environment the bird is in, and something that Holly Swift was talking about at her artist talk was knowing how to connect with that space. So there are hints at it. Sometimes it's more present, but there's so much restraint and understanding in how the bird, or I'll talk about this later, what I think of as figures, how they're placed in space. And it's not the first thing that we understand about seeing your work, but the more time I spend with it, the more I investigate the space around it. So how do you can talk about it with the photography, where there's so much information.
Yeah.
Where how we get from a photograph to this, where you're, I guess, tell us about how you see beyond that.
Yeah, it's a good question. Edit. um, I I've got my computer. I can show you. You can look at a photograph. It's like 420 megabytes. You know, so it takes a lot to run the computer and all that. Um, uh, but you can look at it and see. You could zoom in and see what I got in the photograph. I know a lot of people who use their cell phones, and I use my cell phone to photograph birds if I don't have the camera with. I'm not set up for it. And I think on RAW, I'm shooting at 48 megapixels on the phone, which is a lot, but it doesn't pick up what my bigger camera can do. And my camera isn't huge, uh, um, and how do I go through all of that? And one of the reasons I brought this drawing, um, these are sandhill cranes in flight. And you can see kind of ghosting from different parts of each of the birds where they were at one point. And so when I start drawing, I'm trying to catch the sweep of the birds. And these two birds are in the same photograph, but not in these positions relative to one another. There actually were, I think, 7 birds in the photograph. But so what I'm doing is looking at, and I will composite different photographs together too, but in this case it worked where I didn't have to. So what I'm doing is feeling the shape of the bird and scale, its height, its width, and the illusion of its depth. And then with each of them, I'm doing that. And then working at trying to get the gesture down. And then is it just the gesture that I want? No, I need to know that scale that I just talked about. And so it breathes in space to me. When I was a student, I read Max Beckmann, the German painter's notes on painting, a lecture that he presented at the Royal College of Art in London when he and his wife lived there during World War II. It was after the war, but they moved there. And then they ended up in the United States. And he talked about going to his studio, and he was talking about his studio in Holland, in Amsterdam, and where he would go in at night, and the characters in his painting would be talking to him or talking amongst themselves. They were having a conversation, and I thought, what a beautiful idea, you know. I kind of think of the birds that way, that they're really alive to me. And if I could know their names, I would love it. But and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. But principally, I want to focus on just the mark making and ghosting. And sometimes, as you said, I'll leave that in the work. I like it. I love, and I don't know if some of you who are artists here like starting a piece where it's just wild gesture all over the place, and you're not locked in on anything yet. And it's wonderful. And then the joy in trying to, okay, come together on that and begin forming something out of it, not just individually, but in terms of composition, because that's everything. Design is everything. So I love that. And then I love getting into more specifics. And this isn't done, but I don't know how much further it'll go. It's prep work for a painting that'll be larger than that. I love that. And then there gets to be a point where I'm counting feathers, trying to get positions, and I have to go through that. But sometimes I really hate it. I get
what
tired
have I
of
done?
it gets too tedious, but I have to go through it.
Yeah.
You know? And I found the same drawing amaryllis, flowers or anything. It gets tedious at a point. And then how do you get out of that and get back to trying to express that initial gesture that you experienced, that initial expressive force that you felt? It's.
Do you have an answer for that?
Yeah, but it's a long one. No, it's a matter of really rediscovering what you felt in the first place.
Not just discipline.
No, I love classical music. I used to have a large LP collection, and there's one LP I had that was Bruno Walter, who was a German conductor, conducting Brahms' Fourth Symphony. And so one LP was the recording of the symphony, and the other was the rehearsals. And of course, he spoke German, so but he would no, 999, and everybody had to stop, and then he would kind of go through the motions of what it needed to be. So we're talking about something which is already created, written by Brahms, right, and professional musicians, all well practiced, or they wouldn't have been there, and a conductor, world recognition as one of the top conductors in his day, and but they would start again, then he'd start again, and then he would get all excited that they were on something. So this is what I'm talking about, having to rediscover it. And sometimes you have to go through the individual motions. It might be just the person on that flute over there. Sorry, got to work on that.
A little something.
Yeah, but then it all comes together, and that's what it's kind of what you call the aha moment.
And do you know before you begin your drawing where it will finish?
No. I have a vision, the inspiration, the vision kind of, but how do I put it on the surface, whether it's a drawing or a painting, how do I extract it from that? And that's the job.
I know, that's your job.
It's a job, but it's a job I love, That's
So back to birds.
Yeah.
You talked about, that it's your obvious subject and the form in them and the challenge of working in them. But when I see these, I think of figures.
Yeah.
I think of, again, another art form, ballet.
Yeah.
I see them as these postured, strong, balanced, or in some cases, fighting the wind for stability.
Yeah.
Do you anthropomorphize the birds? You talked about wanting to get to know each of them.
Yeah.
Or,
I don't
birds.
I don't personalize them that way. I mean, like a person. Well, in a way, I do. I mean, I was at the Raptor Center about 3 weeks ago, and getting introduced to it, and they had a bald eagle in a glass cage in the front, as on display, so to speak. But I went over and I asked about drawing there, and they said fine, and no problem. So I went over and sat down. There was a little chair, and the eagle didn't necessarily like me making eye contact, but my goal would be to get more comfortable, or for the eagle to get more comfortable with me, so that I would just be what Andrew once described. He would like to be nothing better than an eye, or bigger than an eye, floating, watching what he was working on. And I love that notion.
Just
to be
to
invisible,
disappear in the presence of it.
Yeah,
I see.
Yeah. But I would like to get to know each one better. Yeah.
And how would that be? I mean, drawing from life. Have you sat?
Well, that's what I would do there. Well, with the confinement, they don't fly away, so it makes it a little easier. And I've drawn from texturing mounts, but I don't like that. It's and I haven't used them as models for my work. But Audubon's work was all done from dead birds, usually shot. Yeah.
Yeah. When my kids were growing, I would take them to the Bell Museum and have them sketch there. Yeah. They're not going to fly away.
No,
they don't do that.
No. But I do see them as, I mean, a lot of people, and you've all heard the term bird brains, and it's a derogatory term, right? And I think that's ridiculous. They're incredibly smart. They process, they recognize faces. You've got to give credit where it's due, and it's due to them. I'm amazed by them. And some are cruel, some aspects of life with birds it's cruel. But, and I don't like that, but it's life.
Well, you seek out these migratory birds, right? So the migratory birds are there for the food source, and they travel with the weather.
Yeah.
I kind of think of you as a migratory kind of creature, going to where the birds are. So, and they pass through, just kind of like the food source. So really it's this big ecosystem of Carl and birds.
Yeah.
Well, if I can kind of continue on the whole bird as figure, so do creating these drawings of birds, I know that you participate in a figure drawing cooperative.
Yes.
And does that feed your work with these? Does one feed the other?
It all does. When I was a student, I did countless gesture drawings, and I thought, when will we be done with this? I mean, I love gesture drawing, but it precedes anything in a picture. Even maybe just in one's mind, but processing the directional forces you see with the figure.
Yeah, quick decision making.
I've shot some, I think, beautiful photographs of a pair of swans down at Normandale Lake 2 years ago. I was down grieving our dear Bella, Liz is my dog, when she died, and I spent a lot of time down there. And these two swans were really receptive to me. They didn't try and chase me away, and I've been chased by swans when in a kayak, and that's not fun. But and they would go through. They were sleeping. One was sleeping, one was awake, and then they would go through stretches, to get ready to move on. And I got some great photographs, which
All of the wing stretches. Is that what
wings,
you're?
but
Yeah.
also legs and the feet coming out, and so it was like watching a ballet almost. Yeah, it's very much like drawing the figure in that sense.
Are models often dancers?
Mike, you might know some of the models better. Yeah, but sometimes for sure. One is an actor, I think, isn't he? Yeah. Yeah. So that feeds what they do. And at least you don't have to tell the bird how to pose, you know.
Like to
I
see you
love just
try.
standing, watching, and photographing. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite bird?
I can't say that I do.
You love them
Although
all.
Liz will say it's sandhill cranes, but then I get sidetracked by an eagle. I never thought I'd be drawing eagles, and I showed you one of the photographs recently of an eagle taking off from that tree. And
well, I think
how do they do that?
I think that we see images of eagles all the time.
Yeah,
you know, you see something so regularly, you stop seeing it. And that's part of why I think that these are so valuable. You know, the lowly gull, or the goose. You know, we just sort of live around them. We don't take the time to observe them. When I say we, I mean me.
Well, we were talking on Wednesday about geese. A lot of people don't like geese. They show up on your dock if you've got a house on a lake or a pond, and go in your yard, mess up your yard, and they're just living. They're doing what they need to do. But we've unfortunately, maybe fortunately for them, have created an environment that's perfect for them, because we like to groom our yards down to the lake or the pond, and they like to come out of the water, and they don't want to have a lot of tall grass around where predators can be hiding. And a dock is a perfect raised surface to be on, to be able to look around and see what's going on. If you've noticed in geese, often there'll be at least one awake, kind of looking around. They know what's going on. So we've created our own problem. Margaret Wrinkle talks about that in The Comfort of Crows, which is a favorite book of mine. And we've done that for other birds too. Now, gulls are everywhere, and they're considered, a lot of people say, dirty bird. Why do you want to draw that bird? You know, I think they're gorgeous, number one, but also they're very smart. They're animated. They are fun to engage. Again, they like a distance, which most birds do. I see them as living, breathing, beautiful creatures, and yeah.
Well, next time I have to wait for the geese to cross the road, I'll appreciate that moment and watch them move. But it's true. I think you know, part of the hurry, you know, the hurry that I live with. You know, I don't appreciate it. I don't appreciate the ordinary. But when I see your work, Carl, it reminds me.
Thank you.
Anyway, and that's your job. So well done.
That is my job. The goose on the end wall or inset wall there is from photographs I took down on the pond on the property in Bloomington where I live, and Liz and I live there. We're between St. Paul and Bloomington, but and that was one goose of probably 10, and there was a group of 5 at one point standing on that same, as part of a fallen tree. And the one on the end over here is standing on the same fallen tree, but the part that's underwater. And they were lined up, and my goal was to do a long, narrow painting, which I haven't done yet, but I've got another one in that same color range in process. my goal was to do this narrow painting, thinking of Robert Motherwell's elegies to the Spanish Republic because of the shapes that he worked with, which I've always loved those. And when I taught at Moorhead, Minnesota State University Moorhead, we had a small permanent collection, and for the longest time, I had a Motherwell lithograph hanging in my office, and we had the right to. Nobody was using it. We could take it, and the gallery director had to know where it was, and it could hang there. And I had a Oltvedt hanging in my office too. So I've been inspired by his work, by her work, forever, and so it's fun to see something like that and to think about that artist. And not that I want to paint this another elegy, but the power of those shapes that I've always loved. This is something I could do with that.
Keep thinking about it.
I am.
Yeah.
I can't stop thinking about it.
So I'm going to see if there are any questions, but first I have a question.
Yeah.
Would you tell us about the gull that's on the large wall?
Yeah. So that soft rain. I mentioned the gull was photographed down. I photographed the gull at Bush Lake. I think it's more North Shore, but Bush Lake. And there was another gull that was flying overhead. There was a conversation going on that this gull was looking up. So
it's so of a moment, and I didn't know that there was activity happening. I just thought it was maybe, standing against wind, but no,
it's turbulent, yeah. But it was actually a calm day. I created the turbulence.
And what kind of paper is that?
Oh, thanks. I didn't say, did I? That's Fabriano paper too, watercolor paper.
Is the paper white?
Yeah, a little off-white. Yeah.
All right. Other questions? Technical questions? Paper questions? Bird questions? Was there anything else you wanted to say that I didn't ask you about?
First of all, I just wanted to say thanks. It's a beautiful drawing. I love the warm and cool.
Oh, thank you.
Classic, but they also feel really tender in your love and observation. Birds coming across because very tactile. I wanted to ask you, since you're a fan of classical music, as am I, if you know Stan. He's a contemporary. He did music and he had birds.
Okay.
Sometimes you can hear that in music and it incorporates the bird choruses.
Wonderful.
Stan Hammer. But anyway, thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, Stan Hammer.
A friend of mine, I first met him actually when I worked at KB Art Materials in South Minneapolis. A lot of artists would go in there and to shop because it was an art store, of course. But John came in and I didn't know who he was. He's this big name illustrator. He did work for Star Wars in the 70s, the advertising work for it. He would come in, he was so soft-spoken and gentle soul, and he bought Placa, which is a casein paint made by Pelikan in Germany, and very few people bought Placa paint, so I remembered him for that. And then he would buy acrylic medium, matte medium, and he would apparently mix, well, he mixed it with the Placa to make it a little more water resistant. Do you want to know more about casein paint? Just a short answer. Okay, so it's basically curdled milk, and when it cures, and like egg tempera, it cures over time. It becomes really hard, impervious pretty much to breaking down. Otherwise, it feels kind of like gouache, opaque watercolor. So John would come in probably every 2 to 3 months and buy Plaka. And Byron Bradley, whom I worked for, told me who he was. And so I found out a little bit more about him. And that he was doing these book covers, science fiction book covers and all that. The reason I brought him up, and this is a long-winded story to get to the birds. So as a teacher, I thought one of my jobs at Moorhead was to develop an illustration program for the department. And many of you probably don't know this, but Moorhead at one point was the largest art department between Minneapolis and Seattle on the northern tier. We had our highest was over 400 majors. But at this point, it was about 200. So developing the illustration program, I got a hold of John Berkey and talked to him on the phone. And he and his wife lived on Christmas Lake, west of town. Was near Minnetonka. And so I called him, and after I got the program going, I had a group of 7 students I was bringing on a tour. And so I called him, and I also called Studio West, which was in the building next door on the 2nd floor, and talked to them about bringing students in to tour the studio. And so John said yes. And so I arrive in my little minivan with the 7 students, and he's very gracious and brings us into the house, and there's a lot of his work hanging on the walls in his house, and beautiful work, beautiful painter. Takes us down to his studio, and it's a lower level, like maybe an 8-foot ceiling, but it felt kind of low. It might have been a standard basement 7, but and he started showing us these little thumbnail studies he was doing of ships in space. And if you ever want to see some really interesting work, it's Berkey. And you'll recognize it if you've looked at science fiction books. You'll start recognizing, and National Geographic historical paintings, you'll recognize them. It takes us downstairs. So, gentle and unassuming. He wonderfully not arrogant. The students asked questions, and he was gracious in answering. He showed us all these little studies I mentioned. And then he said, and I listen to birds when I'm painting. I said, really? How do you do that? He said, I've got microphones out in the woods. And so they lived on Christmas Lake, microphones out there, yeah. And they would feed into his studio, so he turned it on. It was great. So he would just paint with the birds. Yeah.
Do you do that?
No, but I do listen to music, often ambient music when I'm working, but I would like to listen to birds. I could, yeah. But of late, I haven't been listening to music at all in the studio.
Anything you want to say about the figure drawing show that we're going to have?
Well, it's going to be really fun.
September.
Mike Carrick and myself, Michael Banning, Dan Brueggemann, and Jesse Fisher and Scott. What's Scott's last name? Siebart. That's right.
Yeah.
They're partners and have this wonderful studio in St. Paul, East St. Paul. And they will be hosting a drawing session and an event there after that session in September. We get together and draw usually about every other week for 3 hours. We usually start with short poses, and those are wonderfully not the 1-minute ones or 30-second ones we had to do in school, right? But they're 5-minute, 10-minute, and we go to 20, and then a 30, and then we eventually end up on a long pose. It's been going on 3 years. Until this past, actually, when did I start up again? It was December, wasn't it? So I took a year off because of the show I had at the Rourke Museum in Moorhead. So I felt really out of it from not drawing the figure. I mean, not depressed, but
it takes a toll.
Well, but they've been steady at it for 3 years. Every 2 weeks with some breaks for vacations here or there. The sessions are mostly held at Jesse and Scott's home and studio. It's an old church, so the space is beautiful.
It's called Case Edgerton Studio, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm. So we're going to have a show here, and the work will be in this area.
This side.
And a lot of the work will be on the wall with magnets only.
Unframed. Work on paper.
Spray fix, but unframed.
Okay. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. And then some of the work will be mounted in bins for people to look at as well.
Yeah.
And then the 2 sessions that have been advertised so far, Michael's session and my session are sold out, I think, at this point.
Are they all? Yeah. So it's exciting to me to know that there's interest in drawing. It's so direct and deceivingly complicated. So as I live with these drawings of yours, it reveals itself every time I see it. I see something new. So to have these and then lead into figure work, it's kind of a special treat. It's not something that we do a whole lot of, focusing on the figure or some kind of bare bones drawing show like this. So I'd encourage anyone who's interested in these to come back and see that show in September.
Yeah.
Were there any other thoughts about the birds? Carl, yes.
So, do you want to know how I start?
Sure.
Yeah.
Or there's always the question that everyone asks: how do you know when it's finished? But I don't like that question.
That's when it's done.
Okay.
Yeah. And sometimes it's undone and then redone.
Right. Unless it's sprayed, then it's done. That's
Not
how you know
not
when
always,
it's sprayed?
Not always. Sometimes it comes out of the frame for a reason, and I get it back to store for a short time, and it's redone. But
too tempting.
If I have,
Got it.
but not often. So usually it's with drying charcoal or with a figure, often Conte crayon or chalk, and simply staring at the model or the bird. And if it's vertical pose, force up, force this way, force that way.
Really?
Yeah, just swipes. And sometimes I do it with my hand, but often with charcoal, and it might be, or chalk, and just a light touch. So in the drawing session, we'll go through touching the paper, pressure. It's not just the hardness or softness of the tool that you're using, but the pressure you put on the paper and the tooth of the paper. Some papers feel almost like sandpaper. The Fabriano Roma, you can hear it when you go over it.
We'll never think about paper the same.
So that's the wild beginnings, but what that does is it helps me relax and contact the paper and feel what I talked about with this height, width. Where does it need to be? Is it going to be horizontal or vertical? Because sometimes a drawing starts vertical, it ends up horizontal. Why? Because it tells me.
Years of experience.
Yeah. And the other thing, in getting ready for the figure show and the workshops, Liz and I were at Hobby Lobby. I don't know if any of you shop at Hobby Lobby, but in Fargo, we wanted to get some paper for grandkids, and that's the only art store, Michael's and Hobby Lobby, in Fargo now. And we saw these pads of newsprint made by Fabriano in Italy, acid-free newsprint. And I went, my God, acid-free newsprint. Because a lot of the drawings I did in school on newsprint have crumbled away. And particularly if you leave them out in the sunlight, the paper will burn yellow very quickly in sunlight. But over time, it becomes brittle. And I still have a few drawings on newsprint from graduate school, but very, very few, just because they've fallen apart. This paper won't. And well, I say that with authority, but if it's acid-free, it should last. Now, is it going to be as strong as cotton papers like the Fabriano watercolor paper or the Roma? No, cotton is a stronger fiber than acid-free wood pulp. Wood pulp, the fibers are shorter, they break easier. So that's why the paper will break down quicker, where cotton fibers interlock, which makes them a lot stronger.
That's the good stuff.
Yeah.
But for those gestures, you need to just let it go.
Well, you don't want to be worried about money, right? And particularly for beginners, the Fabriano Roma is $20 a sheet, and that's typical. I think the watercolor paper I bought from England just at the start of last year was about $20 a sheet, but now it's gone up for two reasons. One, their production costs went up, but our import duties have put a dent in it too. So it's probably about 35. So that's an investment, and to approach it, well, you can't approach it with fear. You've got to approach it feeling open and free. So having paper that you can do that with that maybe is 10 cents a sheet or 20 cents a sheet, it's easier where you can throw it away if you need to. But when you get to that expensive stuff, you have to forget the price.
Well,
and so I do. I just approach it the same way. I just hit it.
It's good. It's
but
paper.
I admit I've held on to some of the Fabriano for 20 years before taking it out of the drawer, just because of that. And but when I approach it, it's got to be head on.
Well, let us know when the tour is of your flat files and your papers.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, any other thoughts before we wrap it up?
Fantastic, and thank you.
Well, thank you.
Kathy.
I just, when you decide to place the figure in situ in its environment and leave it, I love this one right in the middle where it's not sitting in any environment. And this one looks a little bit like that, but just the suggestion of grass. So I'm curious as to when you decide you're going to add the background.
Well, it's in my mind to begin with.
So what's in your mind?
Yeah, how much would I put in? How much would I diffuse? And in these two cases, I had hints of it, and I would put things in and wipe them out, and I had hints of them, but it just didn't feel right. I needed to stay more on the birds. Where with that wasn't the case with the goose down there or the two gulls over here. I love drawing the rocks and the lichens on the rocks. So, and the one at the end down here is called Celestial. That because those lichens remind me of the sky, night sky. And I've always loved Van Gogh, and Starry Night's a favorite. So that came to mind when I was working on that. There's actually, in that photograph I took, there was a different type of gull. I don't know which it is, much bigger than that one. That's a herring gull, a ringbill gull, sorry. The gull above was probably twice the weight of that gull, twice the mass of that. And so it was. And I looked at the photograph and I thought, I don't want you. I'm sorry. I want you. Yeah. So, but that space, that texture was in it right from the start.
And with that one over there, was there something else? It just feels like it's in an atmospheric environment.
Right.
Was that the same?
I love the fact the bird is looking up. what's up there?
Right.
Well, we don't know, do we? But there were 4 other gulls in the area around that gull, but it was the gull overhead. And so when I was working with it, I thought, okay, do I want to put more in or not? And eventually I just kept putting in, wiping out, putting in, wiping out, making it work. And I'll call these open, and I'll explain what I mean by that in a second. Well, I'll do it right now. Why beat around the bush? So pastel and charcoal, unless they're fixed, are constantly flexible. Oil paint will dry, and it takes a long time to dry for some colors, some quicker. And if it's thick, it takes longer. So you can say it's open still, and it is to a certain extent, and you can sand in lightly, but doing a lot of that is kind of possibly problematic. Acrylic, when it dries, it's insoluble in anything but lacquer thinner, or acetone. But you consider it kind of fixed, you paint over it, no option. But here, I can add and subtract even 10 years from now if I wanted to, unless it's sprayed. If it's sprayed, then you're changing it to a paint almost, depending how heavily you fix it. And I like that quality about it. So eventually, all that smearing, all that rubbing began to look kind of like just clouds of atmosphere. And then I thought, I need more vertical. So the texture of the vertical was added, and it felt like rain. And that's where it became about that. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, Carl, for sharing your work with us and
You're very welcome, and thank you
talking
all.
with me about it today.
Yeah, you're very welcome, and thank you for the chat.
You're welcome.
Pleasure. Thank you all very much for coming. I really appreciate it. My daughter just arrived from Fargo.
Oh, Sarah.